I got to ask you about Misogynistic Mondays or Misogyny Mondays. It's a blog you write, and I can't believe it's you. Okay, because I read a couple of the articles and I'm like, well, this is a very angry woman, and yet you come across as a very grounded, self-aware, knowing what's going on, in touch with the Western side, in touch with the Eastern side. And so, what is the blog about? And maybe I misread it. And why do you write it? And yeah, talk to me.
Okay, so Misogyny Monday came about because
or did I not get the joke?
Okay, so when I originally first started doing stuff in gaming, I used to get a lot of like kind of abuse and stuff online. And I used to really argue with people because I'm smarter than them and I can win this argument, so I thought.
Yes.
But you spend the whole day like angry and
you
annoyed.
were younger and feistier then, so you want to fight everyone then.
Yeah, absolutely. And I knew I could outsmart these people, and well, that's what I thought anyway. But you'd spend the whole day angry, and it's just really not a healthy way, to sort of deal with it. It just ruins your day. And then you're told, oh, don't feed the trolls, just ignore them. And I did that for a while. And then I was kind of like, this is really rubbish. Like, why is my one superpower silence and like not interact? That's not a superpower. That's sitting around doing nothing. Like, this is rubbish. Because also, even by not commenting, they're kind of getting away with it because no one's calling them up. So I was like, nope, I've had enough of this. I want to do something else. And I think if you get on a very kind of feministic soapbox and start lecturing people, no one really likes to hear that. What the internet likes is jokes. So as long as you can make it funny, people tend to be on your side. And I was very, very clear when I started this that you can't generalize all men. This is a very, very few idiots that are out there who basically, I kind of feel sorry for like normal guys who are just trying to, and women get really defensive about stuff, but that's only because you have absolutely no idea how many times before we've had this conversation, some idiot has meant something else by it. You're basically sort of like getting sort of like the punishment for 10 other guys being complete idiots, really. And it's not really to do with anything that you've said. It's just this kind of, it gets to this point where you've like had it said to you so many times or something, and actually what you meant was very innocent, but once you pile it on top of all the other examples.
Is it external though, or is it internal as well?
What do you mean?
I don't know. You said that maybe I'm the 10th person that said something similar, and then I get it all. But is it also your internal clock, as in like I'm angry about these situations, and so I'm lashing out at this and lashing out at this?
Yeah, I think in some, because a lot of the time, sometimes these things happen, you don't say what you wanted to say at that time, or you didn't call someone up on being it. Because a lot of the time, if someone comes at you like really full on, your first thought isn't that someone's being horrible to you. You misinterpret. You're like, oh, I must have misheard or something, and it's not till later you sort of think, actually, that guy was kind of being a bit of a wanker, So basically, I decided that I was going to call these people up. It was mainly to do with like YouTube comments under stuff that I'd done, where people just wrote just the most like disgusting stuff. So then I'd just write a joke afterwards, and then I screen grab it, and then I take out their name, because it's not about pointing at them and getting the internet to go after them. I don't believe in that.
Because they will.
Well, they would, and I know that they would, but they don't need to. They don't need to, because really it's about showing people like what's acceptable and what isn't. And by kind of taking that and using it as an example, you're showing a lot of other people what's acceptable and what isn't. And it's almost like you're kind of like educating some people. So a lot of people don't need to be educated because they're perfectly sensible, normal men. But, there are people out there who maybe need a little bit of guidance. You're kind of, showing them possibly the right way. And I don't know, it just seems a bit classier really than calling them out. I don't need to call them out. You don't need to know their name. It's just should be embarrassing enough that I'm calling them out. Secret shame. So yeah, I just started to write loads of like really stupid jokes and then screen grab them and put them up on this blog.
How long have you been doing that?
Oh God, maybe like 7 months. The problem is that I'm getting less misogynistic comments, and it's really starting to frustrate me, so I can't update it as much as I like.
That's
funny. I need to start making some more online content.
If you're listening, contact Julia on your form of social media and give her some ammo.
Yeah.
No, it's right. It's funny because like I don't know men that do that stuff, but maybe it's just because I stay away from that energy. But some men they really don't get it, and they do some dumb shit, and so I guess they do need to be called out. And I guess sometimes women don't get the chance to do it, and maybe they realize later, or maybe they just know not to confront these people in doing dumb things.
I don't know. I think a lot about this stuff, and I think that I don't know, like as a woman, like you feel acutely aware that your body is always up for discussion. This is one of the biggest things. Your body's always up for discussion. You're too fat, too thin, your boobs are too small, they're too big, all this sort of stuff. And you're just kind of going about your daily life, and then suddenly you realise you're being sexualised in some way, and you're like, why can't I just go about my daily life without something kind of gross? And it feels gross because it feels almost like it's almost like a sort of like betrayal. And I don't know why it feels like that, but you're just kind of going about your normal life, being you. And I don't think about sex all the time, or like I don't look at guys and be a bit like, and sexualize them in that sort of same way. And I appreciate there's differences between the genders or whatever. But I mean, here's the thing. Okay, if there is a difference between the genders, and say men for example, think about sex more often than women, and maybe you go out and you look at women and you think, oh yeah, and you can't help thinking that. That's fine. Think it. Don't say anything out loud. We don't want to know that that's what you're thinking. Yeah? Just keep it to yourself. Maybe don't stare at my chest. Top tip, you might be thinking it. I have no problem with you thinking that. Just don't remind us of that, because we'd like to be thought of as humans, not as objects, if that's possible.
Does that happen a lot?
Yeah, I've been like, creepy men on the tube. I've had that thing, where they kind of barge into you, oh, sorry, and they basically grab your boobs. I've had like guys follow me onto different train carriages, like when I've been wearing a skirt and try and touch up my legs. I think most women, if you ask them really honestly, I could probably give you 20 examples of either times on the underground or situations that I've been in where men have tried to exploit situations or put you in really inappropriate situations, stuff like that, playing up on the fact of like, oh, don't be such a prude, or don't, always trying to like manipulate you into like trying to con you into doing something. And I don't think that this is an anomaly. This is actually the norm.
I think there is a small percentage of men out there that do not know how to deal with those things, and they choose the wrong way to deal with it. I don't even think I think they just do stupid things like that. And if a guy called them later on it and said, what the fuck are you thinking, touching a girl in a tube? They'd be like...
But also you've got to remember, this is the starting point. Like, if they get away with it, they will do it again. You have to call these people out on it. But it's like all this time the stuff happened on the tube. It's like, who the hell am I going to talk to? I'm going to go to the police because they're going to care. Like, but this is kind of like point one. It's the same thing with stuff like domestic violence, like verbal abuse, and how it escalates to like a bit of a slap, to a shove, all the way down the line to a really not particularly nice ending and conclusion. And this is why you need to have these points where you interject ahead of time. And I was reading something actually sort of saying, like, it was actually a chap writing about misogyny, and he was saying that actually as men you could probably do more to kind of influence a lot of this stuff. Like if you're in a group of guys and some guy's making some sort of like slightly inappropriate comment, they say it because they think they can get away with it and that it's acceptable, and the fact that you don't say anything and you don't call a guy on it means that you are effectively saying that the group agrees with you, that this is an acceptable way to talk about women. Now you have to remember, as men, this guy is the reason why when you try and be nice and just play a simple compliment to a woman, you get a load of shit. He's the reason, because he is going around the world thinking that it's acceptable. And think about how many women he interacts with on a daily basis, yeah? That's a lot. He's probably personally responsible for the fact that maybe you got a mouthful from a woman once. So if you don't call him out, you're actually doing yourself a favour by calling him out in the long run. Because the thing is, like, women don't... we don't want to come across as like we're completely insane and psychotic and we've totally misinterpreted things. But you have to remember, like... we have to be extra in tune to all of this stuff, because a lot of the times we can be in situations where we can't control it. We could easily be overpowered, So we have to be able to read all these other cues, and anything that just gives us that slight inclination. It's like, okay, say I had an example once where there was a couple of these guys, and we'll come back home on the tube, and there was a girl sitting opposite me, and they sat down next to her and were like, all right, darling, how are you doing? And this girl was just really trying to read her book. Just trying to read her book and ignore them. They just wouldn't. They just kept talking to her. Now, they might have been perfectly harmless guys. Completely harmless. Maybe they're just a little bit drunk. They just want to talk to her, all right? As a woman, if that was me, I would be like, I don't know these men. I don't know what they're capable of. If I start a conversation with them, it's only going to lead them on. I need to let them know that I'm not interested. So, she lets them know by completely disengaging with them, but they persist. So then what do? You're then in a situation where you're completely intimidated. You don't know what these guys are going to do. It's actually becoming a lot more threatening because they're not stopping, because they're not picking up on her cues that she doesn't want to talk to them. That seems like they're a lot more forceful. Maybe they're not going to listen to what she wants later down the line, this kind of thing.
Everyone has to be on their guard, and it's the front lines.
Everyone does. In the end, with that situation, I just stepped in. I was like, guys, what are you doing? I was like, you're intimidating her. Like, you're literally just sat next to her. You're drunk on a train. Like, of course she's not going to talk to you. Oh, well, we're just like, well, you might be. How's she supposed to know that? How are you supposed to tell the good guys from the bad guys? You can't. So you have to just be on the defensive. Otherwise, she's going to get herself in a situation where you guys are following her home. That is a realistic thing that could happen, and it's happened to a lot of women.